to her about all of that. She is joining us from San Francisco, where it's now just after 10 p.m. at night. So we're very, very grateful she's made the time to stay up late and talk to us. Amanne, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for being with us.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much for having me. And you caught me during Ramadan, so it's a lot easier to stay up late during Ramadan. Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's true enough. So tell us how you became involved in Tatreez. First, perhaps just a quick explanation of what Tatreez is. My viewers and listeners know that last year we had a wonderful segment on kafia, and I'm a lover of textiles and 3D textiles. So Tatreez is something that intrigues me immensely.
Oh, I love to hear that. So Tatreez is the Arabic word for embroidery. But oftentimes when we're talking about Tatreez, Palestinians are talking about Tatreez, and what we're going to be talking about today is specifically around Palestinian Tatreez. There are other Arab countries that have their own beautiful Tatreez, but again, we're focusing on Palestinian Tatreez. And Palestinian Tatreez is a centuries old practice. Traditionally, it was something that was passed down from mother to daughter. And, every motif, every design tells a story, and it represents what these women saw in their daily lives. It represented who they were, their social status, whether they were married or not, what their families did, what region of Palestine they came from. So Tatreez told a lot of different stories. And again, traditionally, Tatreez was done on what we call thobs, so traditional Palestinian dresses. And as you see in this video, there are so many different styles and iterations of it. There are different colors, again, based on different regions, different styles of Tatreez as well, actual embroidery. So the most common stitch that you will see is the falahi stitch, also known as the cross stitch. But there are other beautiful intricate stitches, such as the tahriri stitch or the couching stitch, which you will see done with beautiful metallic gold threads, oftentimes from the Bethlehem region. And then, of course, stitches like the menage stitch, which are a decorative but also extremely functional stitch that binds the fabric together. So before they had sewing machines, they would use the menage stitch to stitch their thobes together. Obviously, as the occupation came to be in 1948 and Palestinians were displaced all over Palestine and globally, that these became something different. It started to evolve. For example, the specific regional patterns began to merge together. If someone, for example, my maternal family is from Ramle, and they were displaced in Gaza, they were displaced in the West Bank, they were displaced globally. Like my mother was born and raised in Brazil, for example. So when Palestinians were displaced, these motifs, these styles began to blend together. And, a lot of times women were now stitching as a means to survive as well because of economic hardship. In 1967, when we were again displaced, that again began to reshape the Tatreez, if you will. You will learn a lot about the Tatreez being a huge part of our political story. And really that started to take shape in the late 60s, the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There was a time where the occupation made it illegal for Palestinians to wave our flag. I mean, just this week, just a few days ago, a young girl in Jerusalem was arrested because she drew a Palestinian flag, and that's in 2025. And, in that time, it was illegal for Palestinians to wave their flag. So what did these women do? They stitched their flags onto their dresses. They stitched symbols of Palestine onto their dresses as a form of resistance. And we know those as the Intifada dresses. If your listeners were to look up Intifada dresses, there are so many beautiful iterations. And if anyone ever makes it to Amman, Jordan, I highly encourage you to go to Tiraz Center. They have displays of a variety of beautiful adult and children's Intifada thobs. So, Tatreez has always been a part of telling our story. And as our story evolved, Tatreez continued to evolve. And, today, especially with many of us living throughout the diaspora globally, a lot of us have now turn to Tatriz as a way to reconnect with home. Some of
Right.
us have never been able to step foot into Palestine, but we feel very connected to Palestine because of Tatriz. Because again, Tatriz teaches us so much about our history. It teaches us about the land. It teaches us about our geography. There are endless lessons to be learned within Tatriz for Palestinians, and there are endless stories to tell. So Tatriz has a very, very special place in all of our hearts. And, I have heard a number of people talk about the fact that Tatriz is something that is continuing to evolve and should evolve. If we did not have the occupation, Tatriz would be innovating. And luckily, many of us, not just in diaspora, but many, many, many Palestinian women in Palestine, in the West Bank, in Gaza, have held on to these traditions and are preserving them. And quite frankly, I, living in diaspora, would not have Tatriz if it was not for the women at home who have continued to preserve our culture. So for them, I am eternally grateful.
Oh, absolutely. So the threes are literally threads of identity, as Widad said, but also threads of resistance and threads of history and memory.
Yes.
It's a way of memory making, of keeping your culture and history alive, even when the occupation tries so hard to obliterate it, as we saw in Gaza last year. They were literally taking anything and everything, destroying anything and everything that could possibly be a symbol not only of Palestinian heritage and culture, but also of family history. So I think it's really an amazing art form, and it is an art form, isn't it? A
Yes.
lot of people said to me they thought the threes was just red or mainly red patterns on either a dark black background or navy blue background, and yet you have on your webpage such amazing colors on your Instagram feed, and even in the video we were looking at just now. Are those colors, do they hold any symbolism? Are they modern? Do they go back to ancient times? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. So I know a lot of people see Tetris now, especially if you are buying machine made tobes from like downtown Amman, right? Like a lot of these, what people think are traditional, are not necessarily traditional. It's just what has become the norm. But yes, there are some regions, for example, Ramallah is a region where they oftentimes traditionally would use beautiful like white linen and fabric and red embroidery. But again, that's not necessarily traditional for all regions. As you see in these videos, there are vibrant colors throughout the trees, and the colors are very regional. Again, as we speak about tradition, right? So
Right.
I personally, I'm like I said, my maternal family is from Ramle,
Lovely.
which is it's a coastal area and it's right above Gaza. And I
Uh-huh.
personally really, really love like Ramle and Gaza Tatriz because they are so vibrant. The
Uh-huh.
colors are very vibrant. I was actually just looking today with a friend who collects thobes on some
Uh-huh.
Ramle thobes that she has that have pink in it, which is like my signature color.
Yes,
I
I
love
see
pink.
that in your profile pic. That's
Yes.
such a beautiful, vibrant color. So is that specific to Ramle and the coastal area?
So there is a lot of pink in Ramle Tatriz, like traditional Ramle Tatriz. I have personally been drawn to it. I don't say that the color palettes that I choose are necessarily traditional
Uh-huh.
because I I like a monochromatic palette and I do love very, very, very vibrant colors. So that
Uh-huh.
is like my way of kind of infusing. But you will see those vibrant colors throughout different Palestinian tatris and in different regions.
And are there specific symbols that are kind of clustered in regions as well? Or will you find the different types of stitches throughout and the symbols throughout? There's symbols like you mentioned the cross stitch and
Mhm.
the cushion stitch, etc. But symbols like cypresses and birds and
Yeah.
even leaves. Some of the trezes actually look like a garden.
Yes. Yeah, actually the shirt I'm wearing is a
Oh, that's
repurposed
beautiful.
thank you. It's a repurposed chest panel and it is from a garden thobe. So it's all floral pattern designs. I did not stitch this. This is a very old piece that I cherish. But yes, you will see motifs that are regional specific, as well as motifs that represent all of Palestine. The cypress tree motif, which is a motif that you mentioned, I love the cypress tree motif. And the cypress tree motif I find very fascinating because you will find various iterations of a cypress tree motif in different
Uh-huh.
regions. And cypress trees are found throughout Palestine. A story that a friend of mine, a Tatreez friend, Esma, has told before when we co-taught a class before, is that, you know, the occupation, when they arrived, they brought European trees with them. They brought trees from their homelands that they tried to plant in Palestine, and they did not survive. But what
Mhm.
did survive all these years are olive trees and our cypress trees. And so
Right.
you will see beautiful iterations of various cypress trees for different regions. And
Uh-huh.
there are some, you know, there are some motifs that are very specific to just one region, like, you know, the Star of Bethlehem, for example, which is a motif that you often see in,
Mhm.
you know, in Christmas decor, but it's also a
Yes.
motif that is used in Eastern European embroidery as well. So that's also very interesting to see when you start seeing motifs from Palestinian embroidery that are also used in traditional, like oftentimes Scandinavian and Eastern European embroidery.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's
Yeah.
very fascinating. Hold
Yeah.
that thought, please, Amanne. We need to go for a quick ad break, and then we'll be back with you. Please don't leave us. This is a fascinating discussion.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Abu Huraira narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Welcome back. Welcome back, dear listeners and viewers, to our fascinating conversation with Amanne Sharif of Min Amanne Tatreez Designs. Today, we're talking Palestinian culture and particularly looking at Tatreez, the art of embroidery, as threads of resistance, identity, and history. Amanne, back to what you were saying about some motifs like the Star of Bethlehem traveling beyond Palestinian borders to
Mm-hmm.
places like Eastern Europe and even Scandinavia.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's largely a Christian Palestinian motif, is it not?
Sometimes, yeah, because the Bethlehem region is very predominantly a Christian, traditionally a Christian area. Yes,
Mhm.
but you'll see again, especially post 48, especially today, oftentimes you will see the mixture of Tatreez motifs. So I oftentimes, when I design my own motifs, because I design them for, patterns or for kits, I actually tend to not always stick to one region. I typically actually design patterns with motifs from various regions because
Uh-huh.
for me, especially being in diaspora, for me, I look at Palestine as one.
Mhm.
And that's kind of my approach to designing. So I like to
Sure.
combine the motifs from the different regions in my more modern, if you will,
Yes.
designs.
Yes, I remember seeing one of your Instagram posts where you're unboxing a Tatreez design kit. So
Yes.
you actually design these and sell them for people to learn the art of Tatreez or to make various chest panels, cushions, I suppose, wall hangings, etc. Because I was talking to Wafa Gnaim. We did a pre-recording with her because of the time
Yes.
difference. It was
Yes.
just not workable. And so we're going to be playing that after this interview with you. And she said to me that while Tatreez was originally on clothing, specifically on thobes, because as time went by and it's a handcrafted art, it became difficult even for some Palestinian women to actually be able to afford original handmade thobes with Tatreez. So they then began I think it was the mid 50s onwards, the mid 20th century, to put Tatreez onto non-clothing items. And
Mhm.
in fact, I have a very precious little gift that was given to me by the owner of the keffiyeh factory in Hebron, the last remaining
Oh,
keffiyeh
wow.
factory, which is a little keyring done in Tatreez with my
So
initial on
sweet.
it.
So
Very, very
sweet.
sweet of him. Yes. So I really do treasure that because it came from him. And, he's an elder and he's kept this factory going against all
Yes.
the odds. So, yeah. When you design Tatreez kits, what actually is in a kit? If somebody from
Yeah.
South Africa, I know some of my embroidery loving friends and art loving friends are watching this broadcast, and some of them will access it later. But if they wanted to access a Tatreez design, Shireen, this
Mhm.
is to you. I know you're in the US at the moment. So, how would they be able to get one of your kits? And would you be able to ship internationally?
Yes, I do ship internationally. I will say it tends to be pricey because I am a small business. I'm not a big business. I
Uh-huh.
don't get a discount, but I do ship internationally. So I will say that my kits and my kind of venture into having a quote unquote Tatreez business happened very organically. I
Uh-huh.
started designing for myself because, like I mentioned earlier, I like very vibrant designs. I also like very dense designs. So I just started designing for myself and sharing online, and people wanted to stitch these designs, so I started offering the designs, and then I started teaching because people were asking to learn, and
Mhm.
then people were asking for kits. So it all kind of happened very organically.
Right.
And I will say I have various kit options on my website, minamanne.com. And for somebody who wants to stitch, you know these kits have everything you need. It has your pattern, it has your thread, it has your fabric, your needles, your scissors, everything. I
Mhm.
also, something that's very important to me that's in these kits is a Tatreez booklet. So it's a small booklet
Uh-huh.
that I created. So, nothing too fancy, but it's very important for me that Tatreez is not just seen as oh, this is cross stitch or this is just embroidery. It's very
Uh-huh.
important for me that if you're Palestinian or not Palestinian, that you understand the context of Tatreez. So this booklet has a brief overview of what Tatreez was pre-48, why Tatreez is political, what Tatreez means for Palestinians today, and then of
Mhm.
course, kind of a diagram and an instruction. I highly encourage everyone, you will listen to Wafat right after this. So definitely read her book because it's a lot more history and a lot more information. But at the bare
Yeah.
minimum, everyone who gets a kit at least walks away understanding the context of what the Tatreez is, which to
Mhm.
me is the
Mhm.
most important part.
Yeah.
And something that I always say, whether it's teaching a class or with content I put out online and through my kids, like if you do
Right.
not stand wholeheartedly for Palestinian liberation, I do not want you practicing our art. And
Uh-huh.
so that is why it is extremely important for me to name what this art is and name that context in every single kit I have,
Kids,
in
yes.
every single class I teach, in every single interaction I have with somebody about the Tatreez.
Right, right. It's about preserving the culture, the legacy, and of course, not having it appropriated as so many things have been appropriated from the Palestinians over and above their land,
Yes.
their food, their wild plants, etc.
Yes.
So yes, I think it's very, very important, as you mentioned. There was a beautiful picture up on screen just now of you in your pink dress, but
Thank you.
before that, there was
Mhm.
a picture of this old lady, I think from 1927, and this
Yes.
blue color. I've never seen the trees in this color. It's quite amazing, and she just looks so happy and content, doesn't she? This is before the first Nakba began, before any of the trouble started. You can't tell if she's Muslim or Jewish or Christian, but she's obviously Palestinian. There was a Palestine then, and she looks content within herself and within her environment, doesn't she?
Yes, and I will say, so this picture is a part of a collection of images that I stumbled upon. They're, as you mentioned, from 1927, and they are from El Kebab Ramle, which is my maternal family's village, and they were
Wow.
displaced from that village in 1948. So I actually, there's a series of these images, and this is the latest one that I just finished stitching because I do stitch. One of the things that I've been exploring the last like couple of years that I'm fallen in love with is doing Tatreez on photography.
Uh-huh.
And so a few years ago, I was scrolling through Instagram and I stumbled upon an image and I was like, oh, this woman looks like my mother.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I scrolled down and it said the village, and I was like, whoa. So I emailed the person behind the account. They gave me access to a bunch of pictures. And when I saw this image that is on that is showing right now, I said, wow, that looks like my aunt. That looks like my Khalto Nabila.
Mhm.
And I actually just finished stitching this, I think last week. And I sent the picture to one of my cousins and I said, who does this look like? And she
Uh-huh.
immediately said, that looks like Khalto Nabila. So
Wonderful.
it's pretty crazy to see this because I'm seeing these people, and honestly, 3 of the images have people that look like members of my family. So
Wow.
I'm like, these are probably my ancestors, and I'm getting
Probably
a
crazy.
glimpse, right? And I'm getting a glimpse into their everyday life. And as you said, she just looks content. She's just like smiling. And all these pictures are like of these people like smiling at the camera. And I have one where there is the family sitting in front of one of the traditional homes that was made out of clay and
Mhm.
mud. So it was very special to
I
find those
can.
images.
Mhm.
And I do teach a class on how to do photo tatreez, and my pride and joy has been all these Palestinians who are sending me pictures of their old family pictures that they have now, decorated with tatreez, and it just like
Uh-huh.
warms my heart.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Well done to you on bringing two kinds of histories and legacies together, photographs and tattoos. I've seen a few of the pictures once again on your Insta feed, and I urge viewers and listeners to go and look you up on Instagram. You at Min Amanne, And before we end, very, very briefly, we really are running out of time, but I want you to just, in a minute, encapsulate this idea of a Tatreez retreat. I run writing retreats myself, so because I'm a writer, you're a
Yes.
Tatreez artist and you run Tatreez retreats. Quickly.
Yes. So I went to a yoga retreat. I'm not a yoga person. I went to a yoga retreat with some friends, and I was like, I actually really am enjoying this. And I'm not even a yoga person. This is great. We're just out in nature and this is amazing. And I came back and I had this idea of I want to do a Tatreez retreat. I just want to go into the wilderness for like a week and just stitch and, zone out.
Mhm.
And corralled a couple of my friends. I got two of my Tatreez girlfriends to agree to help me with this. And so now the three of us, myself, Lena, and Bayan, have been organizing these Tatreez retreats. And the first one we did, we really made the effort to, well, actually, this is the first and second one because they were both in the US. And so we really wanted to be intentional about the fact that we are living on stolen land ourselves. And we wanted to honor the indigenous people of this land. And so we
Right.
went to Santa Fe as well as Yosemite the following year. And we went to kind of learn a little bit more about the art, the traditional art and the cultures, and then gather together in community and stitch. The first one actually completely by coincidence happened 2 weeks. It was already planned. It happened 2 weeks before the start of the genocide. And it was the first time that a lot of us were able to kind of like let our guard down. And it was a beautiful and healing experience. And so we decided to just keep it going. And this year we're going to Morocco and we are going to learn
Fantastic.
about, Berber culture and weaving and all of that good stuff.
Morocco is one of my favorite places in the world. So maybe I'll see you there. Who knows?
Please do.
And maybe one day you'll come and do a Tatreez retreat here in South Africa.
It is
That
on
would
my
be
it is on my
phenomenal.
list. It is definitely on my list. Don't you
So
worry.
let's do it. Amanne, it's been a pleasure and a privilege talking to you. Thank you so much
you.
for staying up late to talk to us.
Of
We've really
course.
enjoyed this conversation with you, and I hope you've inspired some local South Africans to look at the art of Tatreez. Thanks so much.
Thank you
And
so
Ramadan
much.
Kareem for the rest of the month.
Yes, Ramadan Kareem. I hope you have a beautiful month.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa
Wa
rahmatullahi
alaikum
wa
assalam.
barakatuh. And with that, we go to our next ad break.